yes? But if this economy collapses, it's a free fall for South Africa. It's not must we fix the economy or when, we have to. It's not a question of if, we have to. So often the challenge is we look to government, we look to, those in authority. They must fix this, they must. So what I'm going to share with you, I'm going to break it down. I'm going to take you in a moment through a whole exercise because I want to take you into the mind of the economist and see and break it down so that you can, remember part of this sessions is to equip you as a nation builder. You want to know, how can I be part of turning this economy around? But there's an understanding that needs to set in. So just to mention, like a typical economist, I'm not going to speak statistics. We all know the unemployment rate is very high. Okay, over 40%. 33%. The youth unemployment rate 66%. I just want to mention this. We sit with a situation where 7 million South Africans are taxpayers, and you've got 4 times 28 million grant receivers. That's unsustainable. Unsustainable. We have a debt to GDP level, debt to GDP level of over 80%. If we get to 100%, this country is effectively bankrupt. That's where we're going. In 1994, that percentage was in the low 30s. We are now almost at 80%. Just to give you an idea, we have high dependency and a very narrow tax base. Unsustainable. We have inflation concerns. Okay, yes, many of our global influences. We have, I've worked on a study the other day. You won't believe it. 25% of the people that receive grants gamble. Use that money to gamble. You see the vicious cycles. In the hope they might win something, and then it gets them out of poverty. You see, these are the challenges. But they are structural at macro and micro level. I'm not going to go into the statistics today. I'm going to look at it from a qualitative perspective, not quantitative. Qualitative meaning we're going to look at the facets, the structure of the economy, and ask critical questions. So the big thing, I just want to use this as a point of departure. Many of you know about my research and my work on the inclusive economy. The big question for African countries, especially South Africa, is yes, we can't have socialism. Why not? Because it's centralized control. It is, it impoverishes people. But why is capitalism not working here? We need to ask that question. You can't just copy and paste something that works in the West and just put it down here. Why not? Because the Western mindset is individualistic. Okay, it's profit driven. It is my success. It's a different mindset. The African mindset is more collectivistic. It's more us. I can't sleep if my neighbor is hungry. Those kind of principles. And yes, we don't often live them out. We call it Ubuntu. But if you just copy and paste capitalism in Africa, it's not going to work. You need to adjust it to the African context. And that's why I'm talking about the inclusive economy or inclusive capitalism, because the emphasis is on appreciating the context of how we function. Because people in Africa's mindset is, yes, my business can do well, but what about my village? And I know corruption have poisoned that mindset, but that's the true African mindset. How can everybody benefit? And that's actually the right way forward. That is the answer to capitalism. The failures of capitalism, this is the answer to. So what Africa is actually doing, if we get this right, is to be an answer to the rest of the world. And that's what we have. Africa has the answer. So it's not just about saving and rescuing South Africa, it's also about modeling something that is an answer to other nations. All right, so big question, how do we fix the economy to build, very interesting, a righteous nation? What is a righteous nation? Let's ask the question. Okay, it sounds very kind of Christian, okay? But what do we mean with a righteous nation? And We have scriptures that says, when the righteous are in authority, Proverbs 29, the people rejoice. But when the wicked rule, the people mourn. It's been quoted. Are South Africans mourning? Yeah, they're not rejoicing. Okay? What's needed is justice, what we just heard, dignity. An economy that restores people's dignity. Okay? That's part of a righteous nation. Opportunity for all. Why do only some have opportunities, not others? There must be rewards for good work. Very importantly, I must have a reason to be productive. You know, a good reward, good salary, good wage. Okay? Ethical governance, shared prosperity. The concept of shared prosperity is central in this, because that's the essence of an economic turnaround in an African context. It's not just my business, it's my community that flourishes. I'm thinking further than just myself, and that's even biblical. The Bible says in the church in Acts, they sold whatever they had, put it together, and everyone had enough. There were no poverty. I'm not saying we must sell stuff and just put it together. That's not the answer. But there's a principle behind it, that I can't sleep if my neighbor is hungry. That sense of caring is not in the economy. All right. So that leads us to a place where we say it needs an economy with character. What do we mean with that? So we refer to it as a just economy. Okay. So that means restoring integrity, means trust. Trust must come back in South Africa. Do you know the only thing that gives your 10 Rand, your 100 Rand value is trust? The paper is worthless. The fact that somebody accepts your money, trust it, gives it value. You won't believe what I'll tell you about how the financial system operates, but that's it. Not going to go into detail. There must be jobs. If jobs are not created, people, they go into crime, everything collapses. But not dependence. This thing of grants, okay? There is a portion of that that's needed for the elderly, for the disabled, but those who's not working, who can work, and that are receiving these grants, are a massive challenge. But you can't also just do away with it. But you need to reduce dependence. Build an inclusive economy. I'll share more on that. Skills. If people are not skilled, they cannot contribute to the economy. Entrepreneurship, we need business, innovation, and then a culture of responsibility. So the key thing there is just this needs to be balanced. If you want a righteous nation, you need a just economy. Those things need to speak to each other. So this is important for us. When we say nation building, what kind of nation are we building? On the left, a nation of true justice, true dignity. But it needs an economy. The economy almost validates. It's where we put our values into practice. And then we ignite the potential. All right, so this is just surface level, the basics. Now I'm going to take you through an exercise. All right, if I ask you, what should be the top 5 priorities to fix South Africa's economy? Okay, you don't have to answer, just think about it. Okay? Top 5. All of us can think of, listen, we need to sort out this and that and that. But it's an important point of departure. And this is in the mind of the economist. Okay? The economist thinks like this. If we want to fix, let's start with the top priorities. Okay? At the bottom, I'm just showing you the end goal before I list the 5. That end goal is more than just economic growth. We need economic growth. Don't mistake me. But listen to this. The real wealth is when more people, how many people have the opportunity to create wealth. That's real wealth. When more and more people, so it's not just about the economic growth rate, it's about the economic growth participation rate. It's about, that's the inclusive economy, creating access so that more people can contribute to the growth of the economy. Because if only some produce more, they're going to get the benefit of that. But if more people get the opportunity, the skills, the ability to create wealth, then your economy expands. That's the key. So I want to put this forward as the real goal. Few economists will emphasize this, but this is when we talk about a righteous nation and a just economy. This is real change. All right, what are the top 5? Here's my suggestions. It might differ, please. Number 1, jobs. You need jobs and you need to fast-track growth. Those two things are fundamental. If people don't work, you can't grow an economy if more people are productive. Okay? You need to deal with the infrastructure crisis. Okay? Businesses need water. They need electricity. Okay? They need roads that are proper. Those are fundamental. And yes, it's not up to business to fix it. It's local government. But you can't take the economy anywhere without it. You need investment, okay? And with the rand being so weak, I mean, we need especially overseas investment, okay? Why? Because you can't grow without capital, okay? I don't know if any Marxists or socialists among us, but you can't be the enemy of capital. I will debate you until tomorrow.
Yeah.
We can have that discussion, okay? But capital is not the God that it's also made out, okay? Capital is necessary. You need to be responsible in your stewardship of capital, okay? But then, very importantly, human capital. If we don't invest in people, we lose the plot. We don't create the real wealth. Okay, build a capable and ethical and developmental state. Okay, we need to uproot corruption. Okay, and then macroeconomic stability. Why is macroeconomic stability? I know you might not know the economic terms, and I can't explain them now because of time. The big thing about macroeconomic stability is inflation. If inflation goes up, the whole economy collapses. If it goes up, wait, like in Zimbabwe. Why? Because then every productive effort is worth nothing. Inflation is the main thing. So that's why we have the Reserve Bank, and they raise the interest rate, trying to curb the inflation rate. So whatever you do, fight inflation. Okay? So that's why be responsible with your finances. Don't overspend, those kind of things. All of that's part of good stewardship at a personal level. But from a national level, macroeconomic stability, that's the main thing there. From a fiscal point of view, again, overspending. Okay? I don't know how we can spend, 30 plus million on a World Cup and parties and, where is, we don't have so much, I'm not trying to, accuse anyone. I'm just saying, if we're not wise with our finances, we're going to lose it, because it needs to be reinvested in the economy. How do you increase the capacity of the economy to produce? That's where the money should go, not for the parties and not for the other stuff. All right, so we're talking practical stuff here, guys, but this, So if we then extend it and say, okay, top 5, good. How does top 10 look like? All right, I'm not going to go through all of them, but the top 5 is in there. But what you'll see is extra is emphasis on communities, number 1, and business. Businesses, we need to enable businesses to generate growth, for businesses to flourish. There's too much red tape. If you start a business, it takes you months to get going. You can register, it gets through processes that are critical. So there are fundamental questions. You're welcome to take a picture of that at home. Just think through it. So what I'm teaching you is to ask the important questions about the economy. You can't get good answers if you don't ask good questions. Okay? So to save time, I'm just leaving that with you. Sorry, who you wanted to take a picture there. So the next important question is, which of these economic priorities are attainable in the short run? Because any economist will tell you, okay, it's good, wonderful priorities, but what are the immediate stuff? Where can we start? Where's the short run benefits that we're trying to get? Okay, so number 1, restoration of confidence. Do you know that no economy can operate if there's no business confidence? Businesses cannot expand, do business, do more if there's no confidence. Okay? That asks ethical leadership and policy. Policy is government. But through policy, you need to create space for business to flourish. Vitally important. That can be done immediately. Okay, it's possible. Maybe not us as on the ground, but it can be done absolutely. Red tape for business takeaway. Business registrations, there's additional tax on business, even the whole thing about BEE. This is something that's a line on the neck of our people. It's not producing the results. There's no rebalancing. It's only the elite that benefit of it. And many businesses don't even want to start or expand or do anything because of legislation that limit them. Okay? And please, I'm all for redress. I'm all for rebalancing. It's just, when it's not working, it's not working. Make a plan. There's other ways to do. Okay? I think Prince might touch on that as well. Then support small businesses. Okay? We will come back to that. Entrepreneurs. Reliability of infrastructure, and then attract investment. So which of these priorities would create, next important question, the right conditions? Now, there's something you need to know about the economy. There's what we call chain reactions. Okay? You can do something and it has a chain reaction, lots of other changes. If you don't start the right way, you're not going to get the results. Okay? I'm not going to go, there's a lot of technical stuff in that, but it's the way you start. Okay, so you need to create the right conditions. Why? Because there's a multiplier effect. Okay, for instance, to stimulate the economy, it's no use to reduce the tax of the rich. Okay, rather reduce the tax of the poor or those, the low income, because that's broad-based income, the impact. There's a multiplier effect on that that's higher. This is part of fiscal policy management. Okay? Whereas if you do it at the top, they'll pay a bit less, but it's not going to benefit the economy as such, the broad base. All right, just an example. So the multiplier effects means create the right conditions. What do you need? Policy certainty. Okay? Investor confidence. As much as you need business confidence, you need investor confidence. You need to fix the energy and logistics challenge. Make South Africa the best place in Africa to do business. Just that. Make South Africa the best place to do business. If we can be an attractive destination where people say, I want to start a business here. Imagine, let's say you clean up your community. Let's talk practical. Just cleaning up. Won't business owners or people from the outside say, listen, we want to invest? Clarence is an example. Okay? Clarence was a normal town and they started to make it beautiful. Okay? Investors came in. Why? Because it became attractive. So if you want to attract business, make your town beautiful. Make it pleasant, you know. Okay, small business, SMEs and entrepreneurship, and very importantly, skills that match the economy. Okay, a lot of our universities, tertiary institutions, teach skills that those students get degrees, but they can't do anything. They are unemployable nowadays. It's a big thing, you know. We lost the trade schools. What about the electricians and the skills, you know, that empower people, you know, the practical stuff. Develop the skills that generate the economic impact that's needed. Not just a degree behind your name in whatever field. Okay? Then very important, there must be industrialization. Okay? You need to have big factories. Okay? We need to get Elon Musk. Prince, you and I, we're going to have a meeting with Elon. We're going to have a meeting. Because that man must bring his business to South Africa. Okay? Massive factories. Okay? Open it up. We're going to produce. We're going to employ our people. Because the moment you have we have what he calls scaling effects in the economy. If there's one big business, 10 more will open up very quickly. They will become part of the supply chain. That's how you grow the economy. That's how you industrialize it. Okay? When Elon comes, you'll have 10 other international investors bringing their business here. Okay? Why? Because we remove the laws that restrict them and we put in place, the right conditions at ground level for people to become part of it. And yes, we make sure people are not exploited. We make sure that people are looked after. You know, all the necessary things. But if you don't get big business, you're going to be a very small player. You're not going to be able to fast. You won't have the multiplier effect. Without it, you can't. It's impossible. I mean, that's how China came on the map. All the Southeast Asian economies, Singapore, Indonesia, Taiwan, India, for instance. You know what India did? One matric group, we call it matric, okay? They took the majority of them, sent them overseas, and they learned IT skills. And they brought all of them back. After they've done that, that economy flourished. I mean, you can look at it, they're growing faster than China at the moment. The population growth rate as well. But the economic growth, they are expanding. And the moment you have momentum, that's how the economy works. The investors come. They want to invest in an emerging economy. Not an emerging economy in 1994. Today, economy that shows potential, that where the muscle is growing, and investors are interested, and people are collaborating, they're learning the skills, they are coming in, and the government creates the conditions. All right, and then you become trade competitive. All right, so why these 6? Because there's an economic sequence matters. Okay, what follows what? Chain reactions. All of those things are important. Now, these are not economic terms, but it's what the economic change create trust, number one. The moment there's trust in the economy, remember, that's what Donald Trump is trying to do with America. I know he's scaring the whole world. I mean, just yesterday we heard there's more tariffs, you know, and I understand that, and I almost hate it, you know, because it's not the right way, you know, it's so, he can do so much better. But he's bringing the capital to America. He's bringing trust. You say, this is the, what is this? He's always saying America is hot. It's the hottest investment. You know, he uses that word, you know. Getting billions from Saudi Arabia. Why? He's building trust. Let me tell you, people don't like him, but they will invest where he is. They've seen his success, and they know the one thing he can do is make money. You know, momentum, trust. Okay? Can you believe that by putting trust back in the economy, that chain reaction, trust, enable, empower, compete, grow. What do you grow? Jobs. Just trust. Put trust back, it generates jobs. Can you believe it? So we can't say the values and the, you know, those things are not economic. Those are subjective. It's not objective, you know. The economy is so sensitive. It needs that gentle care, trust. It needs people who want to contribute. The moment there's corruption, the moment money are being stolen, investors run. And there's many opportunities around the world. All right? So we need to bring ethics into the economy. You know, those things that are like soft stuff, soft skills, needed very, very much. Okay, so who want to guess what's the most important economic question in South Africa? Anyone brave enough? Are there any economists in the room? Let's see. Okay. I know the few have been invited. They are among us. All right. So in my assertion, okay, I might be wrong, but it's important to ask the question. Your hand is up, sir. Yes.
Massive economic activities.
Yeah. How do we activate those massive economic activities?
In terms of creating a conducive environment which is lucrative for any entrepreneur, startup,
yes,
that environment.
That come. They can flourish. They can do business.
Ignite the economy.
Yes. Ignite the economy. Okay. Good. It's an important question, yeah?
What about the land appropriation without compensation? That's the insecurity.
Yeah.
How must I invest if I know it's not going to be there?
Yeah, they might take the land and so, yeah.
That's the first thing.
It's part of the insecurity, I agree. Maybe not the central, but it's absolutely. I fully agree. All right, here's my take. What economic changes are most urgent and attainable to let the economy reach a turnaround? It alludes to both of their questions. So we need to ask, what are the changes needed? What do we need to change in this economy? You understand the significance? Yes, we want the economic turnaround, and yes, we're going toward a crossroads in our economy. But what are the key changes? If those things change, it starts turning the whole economy in the right direction. So I'm not saying it's easy to do, but these things must change for this economy to get moving. Number one, energy security. Energy security, not just electricity, all energy. Energy security. No economy, no business can run with energy insecurity. It's a major, major thing. All right. Number two, logistics. Okay, ports, rail, freight. It needs to be in place. If products don't move, the economy has no lifeblood. It's not moving. Number three, create a world-class business environment. Business, that's exactly what Trump is doing in America. He's saying, bring your business here. Here, your return on investment will be the highest. We must do it. This is South Africa. We do it by getting those big investors, and then you build the momentum. We do it by changing stuff at our community level. We'll touch on that now. And then restore policy certainty, public-private partnerships. Very important. But what's the problem? We can't trust government. You can't have the partnership because we don't trust government. But if you have private sector and public sector working together, we will fast track this country's economic growth like you won't believe it. I'll do a whole presentation just on that. Okay, small business we talked about, labor market transitions, invest in skills for the future economy, IT, tech, those kind of things. It's not the be all and end all, but they are vital. And then public sector capability, people actually at municipalities that can do their job. Okay, and then trade is absolute important. All right. So then we ask, which economic reforms are most attainable? All right. With other words, what's the low-hanging fruit? Reduce the red tape. So now we are narrowing it down. What is the low-hanging fruit? What's the immediate things that can happen? Okay. Red tape removed. That is one policy decision. Okay. Yes, it requires a government, unfortunately, but it's an easy change. Okay. There's an election coming. Thank the Lord for that. People can make decisions. Then small businesses must be supported. That is vital. And let me just say, not just through policy and government, through us as consumers, our local businesses need our support. It's vitally important. So you can see in terms of cost, low cost, or difficulty, and also time frame, those three categories. And then the third one is the policy certainty. All right. So what you can see is there's both ground level stuff, and we'll get to that now, but a lot of it has to do with government, yes. And those are structural changes that's needed in the economy. But just to see so that you know things can change literally overnight. It's possible. If you have changed at that level and changed it at ground level. We'll talk about the ground level now. All right. The good news is South Africa does not need to reinvent its economy. Okay? It needs to remove the obstacles that prevent it from performing at its potential. Just remove the obstacles. If the water is not flowing, remove the obstacles. Start there. And then the flow can happen. And it's possible. It can happen in a very short time. We, never forget this, we have a choice. Because we appoint the government. We decide what's happening in our communities. We can decide whether to do business or not. Don't lose your choice. That's the big thing. Any human being get disempowered if you feel my choice is worthless. Okay? Even as we stand before God, we have a choice. Okay? Never forget that. Okay? Because the opportunities will come. Okay? The reality check, government does not create prosperity. You know that. They create the conditions for prosperity to flourish. Very important to understand that. Okay? And we call it the enabling environment. Okay? The government can make the right decisions, yes, legislation, but the prosperity is created by the people. If we are too negative, too despondent, we cannot create the prosperity. It has to do with our mindsets. So, let's talk about ground level solutions. Okay? Practical ground level. Because we can't change what the government is doing. Yes, we can vote and hope for the best, you know. But what can I do in my community? Okay? Entrepreneurship. Children need to be taught entrepreneurship. That's one thing I want to add. Skills. Yes, math, science, but entrepreneurship.
Yep.
There needs to be a course in every school. How do I start a business? How do I, in the small sense, just that basic skills to get the thinking going, creativity. How do I take an idea and transform it into a business? And we will have people who make like small investments available for those kids even to start those small businesses, to start learning in a practical sense. Because the community takes responsibility. Again, Ubuntu. Okay? Buy local, build local. Okay? Support your local people. They need you more than ever. Okay? Develop the township economy. Okay? There's a whole book written on quasi economics. It's the survivalist economy, where those people survive on very little. They've got stokvels and operate, or we've got, you know, so that many of those principles are Ubuntu principles, but that can translate into the informal and the formal economy. But we need to keep it alive. Don't think projects in the townships are worthless. There's multiplier effects in it. Okay? Even recycling projects, whatever. You know, the stuff that's there, transform it into a business, small business. You clean up the township, plus it's a store. Eco Bricks, for instance, where they have these 500 milliliter bottles, where they stuff it full of plastic. Small, they break the plastic, they put the bags in there. That thing becomes hard. And you can build small houses with it. You can beautify, you can do a lot with it. It becomes like a brick. Okay? Just Google it. There's a whole company called Eco Bricks. They do it. I'm not marketing them. I'm just sharing the concept. We can turn rubbish into gold. It's possible. Okay, think further. Then the skills needed, and then also the local value chain. Instead of getting suppliers from other side of the country, get local suppliers. Build your supply chain locally. Okay? Revitalize local agriculture. There's someone here on sustainable agriculture, master. You know, agriculture, even food gardens or community gardens are practical work. I pray that every church, Salem, every church must have a community garden. Imagine that.
Yes.
Every church must have a community development. What are that all used in the week for? You know, use our facilities for the community, and it activates the economy. It's small ways, but drops become streams. Streams become rivers. Never forget. Build public-private community partnerships. The partnerships, if the government is not playing, then the community, NGOs with the business. And then entrepreneurship. I need to rush. Prince, don't worry, we're going to go over one. Social capital is vital. Okay, so here's the big thing, a mind shift needed. What will government do? Okay, it needs to change to what can we build together? Vitally important. Our mind shift. So take a look around you. Just look. Just you see people around you. Okay. Now listen to this. We look at the gold and the stuff below the ground. The real assets we have is the people in this nation. The moment you recognize the real assets, this economy will flourish. We need to invest in people. Remember that for the rest of your life. We need to invest in people. Okay? And that is absolutely vital. Thank you. All right, I'm not going to go into all the detail. Guys, my time has run up. I will make this presentation available. That's just an illustration of that point. I just want to quickly touch on this. That number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see there projects. Every town adopts one business incubator. Just start one business incubator for the youth, for instance, mentorship. There's a lot of people retired. They can give their skills. Number 2, every church adopt 10 entrepreneurs. Imagine that. Every church adopt 10 entrepreneurs. Number 3, every school teaches entrepreneurship. Number 4, every municipality support an investment forum. The public, the government get involved they put money where the private sector is doing it and stimulate business. And then number 5, every community buys local. These are part of economic stimulation at ground level. Okay? All right. There's my book on the inclusive economy. I just want to say this. How is it that a guy with the surname of Van Niekerk talk about Ubuntu? Huh? It's unnatural. Okay? You know what? Ubuntu touched my heart. Ubuntu opened my eyes. Because that's the answer. Inclusive economy doesn't mean everything goes. Or it's not free riding. It's productive inclusion. Productive inclusion. Just a few points. We need to create more access. It's not about the growth at the end, it's the growth process. Create entry points for people to create wealth and create value to the economy. We need it to be decentralized. Why? Because the socialist economy of this world, they go more towards centralization. Okay, we know the dangers of that. Free market economy. Okay, inclusive growth, the right skills, we talked about it. Ubuntu creates that solidarity. If you don't have that, you don't have the stability to grow the economy. It means we take care of one another. In my book, I have some shortened versions as well, summaries of the book that's easy read. Please, I'm not going to delve now into, but we talk about transformative partnerships. That's it. It's not just about collaborating. It transforms schools, business, and government and business, NGOs, churches. Everyone has a role. We need to have in every community a meeting where we get the church there, the NGOs, government, business, and say, listen, let's speak. Let's speak. We need to do more. We need to do more. The social contract is broken because of the lack of trust. We need to establish a social covenant. Remember that word. You will hear of it again. A social covenant means we share the same values. Therefore, we work together. Repurposing business. Circular economy. Okay? An ecosystem can learn, economy can learn a lot from the efficiency of the ecosystem. Learning from nature. Okay? And also circular, meaning let's do something with the waste that adds value to the economy. All right. There's a concept, it's in the book, Smart Redistribution, which is phenomenal. How technology can be used to empower people so they know what their tax money is spent on. You can use a coding system. You know, it's not into a black hole. You trace. The more transparent the economy is, from especially fiscal policy, the more trust comes into the economy. All right. I'm so sorry. Action steps, make job creation a national mission. Build, I'm just going to mention this, build the most business-friendly economy in Africa. Fix the infrastructure. Launch entrepreneurship. Okay, you'll see some of these things are repeatedly important. Okay, shift the thinking. We cannot just have a consumption economy, we need to have a production economy. Vitally important. Okay, inclusive ownership, with other words, stewardship. Then Africa needs to get an innovation hub. Let me just say this. I've been in Israel last year. I saw every university have innovation hubs. They take every problem and they turn that into a solution. They have funding available. You just come with an idea. They say, listen, we'll organize funding. We'll experts sit around the table. We'll develop that idea. You'll have your benefits, but it's going to mean something to the people. They solve the water problems, all the issues. The problems excite them. Imagine if that culture, that mindset starts happening here. Okay, and by the way, they said, listen, we can help you with your community development. We can fast track what's happening there in the townships. We have the ability. I've met with many of the experts. But now the government says, no. You know? So, and yes, there's other countries that can also help. It's not just about Israel, but it's about we need whatever we can get to fast track us out of this crisis. And they have developed that, you know, in other countries as well. Innovation Hub, absolutely very important. Okay? Localized economic development, professionalized government. I think Prince will touch on that. But let me tell you, the essence is we are sitting on the richest continent in the world. We are sitting on the richest continent in the world. But we are the poorest. If we get our act together, this continent, not just South Africa, can lead the nations of the world, can lead China, the East. It has tremendous potential, not just in the people, in the resources, in the, you know, there's so many factors. When it changes, all the investment of the world come here because they're looking for an emerging market that is truly emerging. That's the opportunity right before us. If we can change the situation, we will lead the nations. Africa unlocked. I'm going to just close by saying honesty defeats corruption. Opportunity replaces dependency. Entrepreneurs create jobs. Education equips every child. If we don't change the mindsets, we're not going anywhere. The mindset change. We need to see the potential and we need to realize it's up to us. Not external, the government, it's us. But we need to get our house in order so that we can collaborate. That's why what John is saying, the role of the church, the role of unity, that's the dynamo power behind economic growth. Really. And the moment that can start, where does it start? In my community, where I stay. This economy will be on. So be blessed. Thank you so much for listening. May it mean something to you. And thank you so much. So I think time is limited. So just take your oxygen.